some time ago I recorded video regarding the perfect lens for talking head video like this. And then the approach was to sit at the same distance from the lens and see what framing do you get from each lens. But this time I tried to get the same framing, so basically head and shoulders. The samples are probably a bit wider than this one, but generally I managed to get the same framing for each lens. And also in the same time I used the same f-stop for each lens, which was f2.8, to prove that the focal length does not change the depth of field. And you can check it with the depth of field simulator link in the description down below. And basically if you use the same framing and the same f-stop, there is the same depth of field on the subject, but there might be slight changes in the background because it depends how far the background is. So that's why there are some lights in the background to see the difference, but generally on my face there is no difference except the distortion from the different focal lengths. So later there will be comparison between different focal lengths and different f-stop for the same focal lengths. So there is no such thing as perfect lens for talking head video, because it depends on at least two conditions. One is how much of your surroundings you want to show, and another one is how big is the space you are recording in, because if you are shooting in the really small room, then you are not able to get this framing with, for example, 50mm lens. Or if you shoot in the clutter room, you won't like to use 12 or 16mm to show everything in the room, or you shoot in the ugly location and you just need to record something but you don't want to show the location itself. You can use the lens with the tighter focal length, which means the longer focal length. It also depends on the size of the sensor, because there is a crop factor. Another factor might be if you are against distortion on your face or not. I generally don't care, but there might be a case that people watching don't like distorted faces, that they rather like normal looking faces. Then it means you should use lens with 30 up millimeters focal length to get the kinda normal looking face. So basically if you want to show more of your environment, you should use shorter focal length, which is the wider lens, and you show more. But if you want to keep the framing of your face the same, you just move closer to the lens. There are videos claiming that the perfect focal length for talking head video is 16mm. There are videos which claim the 50mm is the perfect one. Sure, your face would look very natural on 50mm on full frame, but then if you use crop sensor or Micro Four Thirds, it'd be totally different focal length, and probably you won't be able to record such framing in a small room. This room got 3.5 meters of the depth, and if I use 50mm, basically there is not enough room to get framing like this. I have to shoot diagonally to be able to get this framing. And this one is recorded with Samyang 24. I prefer something between 24 and 30. 28 seems to be the best for my small room, to be able to still sit close to the camera and get the proper framing of the background, and to cut out the clutter which is in this room, because this room is not a YouTube studio, it's just an office room, so there is plenty of stuff. You should take any claim that this is perfect lens for the talking head video with a grain of salt, because there is no such lens, and you should consider your surroundings and what look you want to get to choose the lens. Generally the 1.8 lens or even slower would be enough, because this one is f2.8. I'm totally fine with the depth of field of this look. Regarding the focal length, you should think how far you want to sit from the camera. You also have to take into consideration the crop factor of your camera. So check any video regarding the crop factor on YouTube. There are plenty of those. And before buying a lens for talking head video, you should understand the crop factor. And then if you understand the crop factor, you can choose the proper lens and you can get away with only one lens for such stuff and get the different framing from just moving closer and farther away from the camera. Later on, there are examples of each different focal length, also comparison between the same focal length with different f-stops and how shallow the depth of field is. And everything is shot on a Sony a6600, so it is a crop camera with around 1.5 crop factor. If someone got a really big room, he can shoot even with 100mm lens. But you, for example, shooting outside, if you want to show all the environment you're shooting in, might be the case that you need 15mm lens on the full frame, which means you need something around 10 on a APS-C and 7.5 on Micro Four Thirds. So again, there is no perfect lens. You have to choose based on your environment and how far you want to sit from the camera. Another reason why I want to shoot quite close is that I'm tethered with my lav mic, and of course I got a cable extension, but then it might introduce some noise, or my mic could be disconnected from the camera. So it's better to connect directly to the camera, and the cable is just 1.2 meters, so I don't want to sit far away. And also, if you sit very far away from the camera, then you need a remote to steer the camera. In some cases, sitting closer is better. So my perfect focal length is something between 24mm and 30mm, which is on this APS-C camera 36 between 45. This time I used smaller selection of the lenses. It is Samyang 12mm f2, Laowa 12mm f2.8, and there are two 12mm lenses, but the Laowa claims it does not have any distortion, and it seems that my face is less distorted with this lens, although it is still this 16mm look, because on my camera this is 16mm. Then is Sigma 16mm f1.4, and next from the Sigma Trio is 30 f1.4, and there is a Sigma 56 f1.4, and there is also this Samyang 24mm f2.8. So 6 lenses. Examples are incoming, and first examples show the difference between different focal lengths, and then there are differences between different f-stops on the same focal length. Cheers, mate.